Elise felt another asthma attack coming on. Lately, her asthma had been flaring up more frequently. The mountain of problems she faced left her no room to relax. Her body felt the strain, responding with constant health issues. Today, a demanding customer had frayed her last nerve, and an attack struck. Fortunately, Margot was on shift, always keeping a watchful eye on Elise. She noticed Elise's pallor, her confusion, and her rapid breathing. Margot quickly led Elise out of the store. "Sit here for a bit," Margot said, helping Elise to a bench by the back door. She knew Elise needed to sit and hold on to something to ease her breathing. Elise sat down, dangling her legs and gripping the edge of the bench, focusing on steady breathing and pushing away dark thoughts. The credit, the crumbling ceilings in her small apartment, daily stress at work, and arguments with her quarrelsome neighbour. She needed to forget it all, at least for a moment, to breathe normally again. Whenever an attack started, Elise would imagine herself lying in a blooming apple orchard. This mental image took her back to childhood, when her mother was still alive, and her only worry was avoiding the morning dew. She pictured the peaceful hum of birds, butterflies fluttering about, and carefree sparrows chirping. Her breathing would slow, the wheezing would subside, and the tightness in her chest would ease. She felt safe again. In her youth, during these attacks, her imagination would take her even further. She would envision a handsome man and their little children in the orchard. They would walk hand in hand, get into a car and drive to the sea, where a gleaming white yacht awaited to take them on adventures around the world. Elise felt better. Her daytime attacks were never as severe as the nighttime ones. Sometimes she could stop them before they fully took hold. Today's attack had barely begun before it subsided. Elise didn't even need her inhaler, which she tried to use sparingly due to her condition, but always kept with her. After catching her breath, she even managed a joke. "Margot, did you know there was a time when I dreamed of marrying a banker? I'd imagine him all dapper in an Italian suit, you know, with diamond cufflinks." "Oh, Elise, a banker with diamonds? You're really letting your imagination run wild. Feeling better now? Let's go back. Helen will be mad at us. We left her all alone at the register, and customers will be pouring in any minute." Margot knew that Elise no longer dreamed of a banker with diamond cufflinks, or any man at all. But there was a child in her thoughts. She had recently discovered she was pregnant. A home test confirmed her suspicions with 2 clear lines. What should have been joyous news for most women sent Elise into another severe attack. The man who had gotten her pregnant wanted nothing to do with the child or her. He didn't consider their relationship serious enough to discuss family and children. "What did you expect? That I'd want to marry you? We had some fun, that's all," he had scolded when she told him about the baby. "I never saw this as a serious option. Besides, I have another girlfriend. She's the one I'm serious about. She has money, a house, cars, and a prestigious job. What do you have? Nothing." Elise cried for a long time and eventually made a cruel and hard decision. She went to the hospital with Margot. The doctor confirmed the pregnancy at 6 to 7 weeks. When she learned that Elise didn't plan to keep it, she became serious. It always carries risks, and with Elise's negative rhesus factor and asthma, the doctor wasn't confident the procedure would be without consequences, or that she could carry a child to term in the future. The doctor managed to convey this to Elise, and was glad she could save the unborn child's life and prevent Elise from making a grave mistake. Elise decided to keep the baby, but fears of loneliness and an uncertain future triggered more frequent attacks. The doctor had warned her that this could happen in the first half of pregnancy and advised her not to worry too much about it. Elise promised to get her thoughts in order and overcome her depression to avoid attacks and panic. However, this was easier said than done, and she often had to miss work or, like today, sit in the back with her inhaler ready, trying to regain her composure. On her way home, Elise thought about the baby. Today, she felt the first gentle kick, a strange and exciting reminder that a little person was growing inside her, and she would never be alone again. In the orphanage, she had friends and caretakers who treated her well, and she had Margot at the store. But this was different. The baby was a part of her, the family she had always dreamed of, and she already loved her child with all her heart. The screech of brakes abruptly pulled Elise from her thoughts. In slow motion, she saw a car speeding towards an elderly man just steps away from her. Without hesitation, Elise lunged forward, grabbing the man's sleeve and pulling him toward her with all her might. The car still pushed him slightly, knocking him to the ground. The old man fell hard onto the sidewalk, taking Elise down with him. She miraculously stayed on her feet. Bystanders gathered and called an ambulance. The police arrived, and a breathless Elise had to give her witness statement about the accident. The old man she saved was taken to the hospital. "He's just some homeless guy. He was probably drunk and stumbled into the road." The driver tried to excuse himself. Someone in the crowd backed him up. "It's true, he's a homeless man. He's been hanging around here for days. He's not in his right mind. Like he's been hit over the head." The local janitor said he appeared out of nowhere about a week ago. "His name is John, but he doesn't remember anything else about himself." "So if he's homeless, is it okay to run him over?" Elise exclaimed indignantly. She decided she would definitely visit the old man in the hospital. John was in a ward with 3 other injured men. He didn't recognize Elise, but was overjoyed to have a visitor. The elderly man truly didn't remember what he was doing on the street. He didn't know his address or even his last name. Elise visited him again on the weekend, but the old man was no longer in the ward. "He was discharged. He did ask to stay longer, but this is a hospital, not a sanatorium," the nurse explained to Elise. "These homeless people throw themselves under cars to get into the hospital. They want to fatten up on government food and lie in warmth. He didn't have any serious injuries, so the doctor ordered him to be discharged." Elise was outraged by this attitude toward the old man. "If you're so kind-hearted," the nurse didn't hide her annoyance, "then take him home with you. Let him set up a resort at your place, and real patients should be treated here." And that's what Elise did. She immediately went to the intersection where she first saw the old man. John was sitting on a half-rotten old bench under a building, not far from the scene of the accident. Elise approached and touched his shoulder. The old man started at her touch. He had dozed off on the bench and was now frightened by the sudden contact. "Come with me. I'll feed you, and I have a corner for you," Elise said, seriously intending to take this stranger into her small apartment. She set up a cot for him in the kitchen, heated some tea, and provided him with bed linens and a towel. "I think you should take a bath. The warm water will soothe you, and clean clothes will make you feel better." Elise had bought some clothes for the old man at a second-hand store on her way, so John stayed with Elise. The old man turned out to be quiet and calm, not a drinker. The only problem with him was that he moaned loudly at night. Not terribly scary, but it frightened Elise very much. She would jump up and rush to the kitchen, anxiously asking the old man, "What's wrong? Are you feeling ill?" He would wake up and shake his head negatively. He couldn't answer what was tormenting him, making him moan and even scream in his sleep. On the very first night, when none of Elise's neighbours knew about the new resident in their building, the old man's cries and moans frightened not only Elise. Gwendolen, who lived on the floor below, banged on the ceiling with a mop and knocked on the radiators. Early in the morning she came to Elise's apartment with two men, tenants of their building, who liked to drink and cause trouble, and whom Gwendolen herself had complained about to the local police officer. When they saw only a pitiful old man in Elise's kitchen, they left in embarrassment. But Gwendolen, quickly regaining her composure and recognizing the recent homeless man in Elise's guest, launched into the tirade. "What was going on here last night, huh? It's outrageous. Why should the whole building wake up in fear because of you? I banged on the pipes and the ceiling, but he just kept moaning, like a wolf at the moon. I'll make sure you and that old man are evicted. You'll both end up on the street." The rumour that the unmarried, pregnant neighbour had taken in a homeless man spread quickly through the building. The neighbours whispered behind her back. They couldn't understand why a young girl would take in a strange old man in her tiny, shabby apartment. "He'll kill you one night, steal your money and burn down our building. Something can snap in his brain. I would never let such a person into my house." Gwendolen, who had always caused Elise trouble with her insufferably nasty character, became even more unbearable after the old man's appearance. She would cause scenes over the old man's nightly moans, waking up the entire building and threatening to call the police. Elise tried to ignore the spiteful neighbour's antics, although she was genuinely concerned about the old man's condition. No one knew how to help him. Over time, the old man became much calmer at night, but he never recalled who he was or why he had been on the road near their house that evening. He wasn't even sure his name was John. Perhaps someone had called him that. Who knows? Several months passed and little Sadie was born. Looking at her tiny daughter, Elise felt a mix of emotions. She was overjoyed, but also overwhelmed, wondering how she would manage with a baby and all her other responsibilities. "Don't worry, I'll help you," John assured her, but Elise knew the old man's help was limited. Surprisingly, John cleaned, did laundry, ironed and even cooked, marvelling at his own abilities. "Look, Elise, I can make soup." He stayed close to home, sometimes sitting on a bench in the courtyard with a book or magazine. Both he and Elise feared he might forget his way back if he ventured too far. Meanwhile, Elise's asthma attacks nearly stopped, and John no longer cried out at night. Life was slowly returning to a peaceful routine. None of them, neither he nor old John, could have imagined how drastically their lives would soon change. One night, little Sadie spiked a fever. It was late and there was no suitable medicines in the house. Elise didn't dare take the sick child with her to the pharmacy. John was sleeping in the kitchen and hoped Sadie wouldn't wake him, while she quickly ran to get fever-reducing medicine. Unfortunately, the nearest pharmacy was closed, and it took Elise over half an hour to find an open one. As she rushed home, clutching the medicine, her mind raced with terrifying thoughts. She imagined the old man waking up, confused, and taking Sadie out of the house, or worse, smothering her to stop her crying. When Elise finally returned, she found a very different scene. John was holding Sadie, gently rocking her and singing a soft lullaby. Elise had never heard him sing before, and it brought her a sense of peace. Sadie was sleeping peacefully in his arms, and he smiled down at her. "Elise, Sadie started crying, so I took her in my arms to soothe her," he explained. "And you know what? When I held her, I remembered everything. Elise, I had a daughter once and a wife. They died in a car accident. That's probably why I was drawn to the road. I've been alone for a long time." The old man's face lit up with sudden joy. "And I remembered something else. My name is Carl Lewis. I was a banker and a renowned collector. I'm not homeless, Elise. I have a big house of my own." Elise stared at him in disbelief. "Poor John is really losing it. I'll have to take him to the doctor tomorrow. Gwendolen was right. He's not in his right mind." "Elise, don't look at me like I'm crazy," Mr. Lewis pleaded. "Let me explain everything, and as soon as Sadie feels better, we'll go to my house. You won't believe your eyes when you see it. I live alone with my collection. I have a passion for antiques and art. Furthermore, I ended up on the street because some con artists came to my house posing as buyers and antique enthusiasts. I knew they were trying to trick me, but I played along, planning to call the police. They figured it out and attacked me, hitting me over the head with something heavy. I don't know what happened next, but I woke up in the woods, remembering nothing. I think they thought I was dead, so they dumped me there and covered me with leaves and branches. Somehow I made it to the nearest city and ended up at that intersection where you found me. I only just realised that's where my wife and daughter died 30 years ago." The old man wept, and Elise found herself believing him. 2 days later, when Sadie's fever subsided, they hired a car and set off for the city, where Mr. Lewis's house was supposedly located. "Look, Elise. Look what those scoundrels did. They ransacked the whole house." Mr. Lewis stood in the middle of his home, indignant. "These vandals have no clue about antiques. They smashed a valuable vase and took a worthless trinket that was just taking up space. What fools! They only trashed the place for nothing." Elise looked around the old man's home in amazement. Mr. Lewis hadn't lied. He indeed had a large house, and was clearly far from poor. "What idiots!" he continued. "They thought they could outsmart me, but they messed with the wrong person. Did they really think I'd keep my most valuable items on display in the kitchen or living room?" The old man pressed a hidden lever on the wall, revealing a secret room to the astonished Elise. She felt like Aladdin entering the Cave of Wonders for the first time. "I'm not crazy enough to leave such things out in the open. Those are just minor trinkets. But here, this is a collector's paradise. Look, Elise, you'll never want for anything again." "Mr. Lewis, were you really a banker?" Elise suddenly asked. "And do you have diamond cufflinks?" "I was, dear, and yes, I have cufflinks. But why do you ask?" Mr. Lewis was surprised. "Oh, I'm just curious." Elise laughed. "Come on, tell me," Mr. Lewis insisted. So Elise shared her childhood fantasies with him. The old man was surprised, but remembered her words. Mr. Lewis was indeed wealthy. Besides his collection of antiques and paintings, he had money in bank accounts and influential friends. He introduced Elise to them as his adopted daughter. "Don't be shy, Elise. You're like a daughter to me. Now we'll find you the best husband, a wealthy groom. Want me to arrange a match with a banker?" "With diamond cufflinks?" Elise laughed. "No, I don't want that." "Why not, dear? You could travel the world on a yacht with Sadie." "I don't want a yacht. I'm happy here. I'd rather go to get an education," Elise insisted. The news that Elise's tenant was a wealthy banker caused quite a stir in their city. Elise is the sole heiress of the old banker. This thought consumed Elise's ex-boyfriend. He even tried to assert his rights as Sadie's father, but Mr. Lewis quickly put him in his place. Elise attended university and no longer dreamed of a banker or an aristocrat. She wanted a kind and caring man who could love her little daughter and be a real father to Sadie. And she found him. Eric was the son of Mr. Lewis's childhood friend, a simple artist and romantic who had never been married at 30. Sweet and modest, Elise immediately caught his eye, and he asked her to model for him. Portrait after portrait filled Eric's home, and his heart filled with love for the girl. Elise, do you know this is the 10th portrait of you I've painted? Do you know why I keep painting only you? I want to see your face constantly and look forward to every meeting so I can paint your lovely face again and again. I'd like to propose, but I fear you'll refuse because I'm not as wealthy as your adoptive father. Eric, do you know why I keep posing for you? I also cherish our time together. I'm a simple girl, and I don't think Mr. Lewis will mind if we start seeing each other. Eric and Elise began dating and eventually married. A year later, Sadie had a little brother, and Mr. Lewis Petrovich gifted the newborn heir his antique diamond cufflinks.